You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
The RNC is detailing what's happening on the national scene and how, I would guess, is the first look into how our politics are shaping up in the wake of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. But there are ripples, there are reverberations that we're feeling even here in California. And because of what happened Saturday, I think it has spurred on this effort right here in California to beef up California lawmakers' safety. And you're looking at elected officials all around the state as far as whether they have adequate security. The Secretary of the State and Chief Administrative Officer of the Assembly said that there has been heightened concern about political violence in recent years, and there is a new bill which is underway to protect California lawmakers and candidates from rampant threats. The measure is Assembly Bill AB 2041, which would allow candidates and elected officials to use more campaign funds for personal security for themselves, family members, and staff. That's the bill. But let me interject my thoughts on where we are more generally here in the state of California. I don't know if it's a function of having more security. And hear me out on this. If we think about the overall environment, there is an aggressiveness in the way that we address elected leaders, in the way that we address politicians, that I don't think is going to be addressed just by more security. Here's what I mean. You may remember former LA County DA Jackie Lacey, how protesters went to her house and protested outside of her house early in the morning on multiple days. And yes, it resulted in an unfortunate gun display incident by her husband. But the point is, the way we interact with elected officials and politicians is very different today. There's a general lack of respect and more of a disdain for elected officials. You can look at it online as far as how we talk to one another or how we even talk to elected officials online, be it a Facebook page or be it a Twitter handle or how we just go at each other in our day-to-day conversations. It's much more aggressive, and I don't know if just having more security or setting aside for more money for more security really gets to the root cause of it all. Something I think has to change in us. There has to be an increase in the quotient of general respect for ourselves, for our fellow citizens, and also for our elected officials. And if you look at the dialogue, how we refer to the governor, how we refer to the LA County DA, how we refer to LA City Council or members of Congress, it's usually in a way which is beneath the modicum dignity of respect. And we try to justify it with anything we want. We try to say that, well, because they've done this or because they don't do that, they don't deserve my respect. But that lack of respect usually plays itself out in all sorts of unfortunate ways, sometimes violent, sometimes in terms of vandalism, and sometimes in ways that we don't even want to talk about. But I think we have to handle both. You can talk about expanding security, but if we're not talking about how we have changed as people, then I don't think the added security is going to make much difference. And here's what I mean. And we can use history as a guide. As far as political violence, California has had its fair share. Back in 1975, a member of the Manson family cult attempted to shoot President Gerald Ford near the state capitol in Sacramento while Ford was en route to meet then-Governor Jerry Brown. And in 1968, obviously, Senator Robert F. Kennedy was shot at the Ambassador Hotel here in L.A. while running for the Democratic presidential nomination. And also on Sunday, this is the day after the attempted assassination, Newsom said he deployed 61 highway patrol and police officers to assist local, state, and federal law enforcement during the RNC that we were listening to just this past hour. So there are components which include law enforcement, but I also believe that there are components which have to do with who we are as people, our general lack of respect for one another, our general disdain for not just public officials, but, and I know, Mark Ronner, you would have strong feelings about this because I have strong feelings about this, the lack of respect for the media and how that can also translate into violence. We can talk about the CNN bomber, Cesar Sayoc, and how all of these things are connected. Because we feel a certain way, we feel that whatever we say or our actions subsequent to that are somehow justified.
Well, I was going to keep my thoughts to myself on that.
But I'm just saying, just from a person who works in the media and how members of news media, and I'll say reporters, are vilified, treated much more aggressively, accosted on occasion. There was a video that reporter Chris Adler had on her Instagram where she was trying to interview people who were at the Trump rally, and I think it was Huntington Beach. And she said that she felt unsafe of how people were addressing her and coming at her as if she was some sort of enemy of the people, as it were.
Yeah, when you're against the free press, think about what that means you're actually for. It's unacceptable.
Well, my concern is invariably it will lead to violence. And we're not talking about that elephant in the room. We can obviously look at and point, oh my goodness, someone took a shot at the former president and Republican nominee for president. And we say, oh my gosh, we can't have that type of violence. But we never talk about the precipitating events or the mission creep where we get to that level of violence, where we think it's okay to accost other people, where we think it's okay to confront people in a way that is aggressive and just short of violence. And that's how it spills over into violence.
We have been, and I believe, just based on, you and I talk all the time about being students of history, and an unparalleled time in the modern era of incitement to violence, of hate speech, and things that I really didn't think I would see again in my adult life. Things that I saw when I was a child that I thought were extinguished from public life, or that would end a person's career for saying things like that out loud. I think we're kind of all the way through the looking glass right now.
No, we are. And we're at a point where people think because I believe this strongly, or I have conviction in my beliefs, that somehow I deserve a platform, I deserve a forum, and you have to sit there and take it regardless of how I want to present it to you. The whole idea of civility and respect for one another is completely gone. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice when we're not acknowledging the obvious.
We finally agree on something. Let's mark this day down as something special. We're on a roll.
It's like twice in the month of July.
Maybe we should quit while we're ahead and drive off a cliff like Thelma and Louise right now.
All right, then let's go to a commercial break. And then on the other side, let's talk to you about these hugging robbers, which are popping up in various places around Southern California, and what you need to know to better protect yourself. It's Later with Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
2 people have been arrested in jail in connection with an attempted robbery in Orange County earlier this month. But authorities are warning Southern Californians like you and me, be vigilant and don't let approaching strangers who appear to want a hug get one. And let me stop right there. A complete stranger coming forward, arms spread wide, asking for a hug? No. I don't know about other people. I can only speak for me, and it may vary from person to person. I don't like strangers approaching me. We talk about when I go to a gas station, I don't want you to come up trying to sell me cookies. Don't sell candy bars. Don't sell, tube socks. Don't sell me anything. Don't try to engage me in conversation. Why? Because I know that that's when a crime usually happens, when you're distracted, especially at a gas station where you may, they know you're there to spend money and you're there outside of your car. You can't easily get away. I don't like people approaching me at a gas station, but by and large, I don't like just random people on the street approaching me when I know that I don't know that person and that person doesn't know me. Now, it's different if someone should happen to recognize me, and it happens on occasion from time to time, where they say, hey, aren't you Mo Kelly? Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a random having no explicit reason to engage you in conversation. They have not made themselves known as far as why they are walking towards you. That stuff, I don't like at all. When I see the story about these hugging robberies, based on the description provided by the victim, it was later determined that these same suspects were possibly involved in similar incidents in Orange County and surrounding counties. It went a little something like this. A man told authorities that a male driver parked his vehicle in front of his driveway. That's issue number one. While a female passenger exited the suspect car. So you have a random car parking in front of your house, and then a random person exits, I assume, on the passenger side, and approach this man with his arms out for a hug. You're not getting that close to me, because what are you doing in front of my house? Why are you walking up to me, and why are you asking for a hug? I don't know. All my bells and whistles will be going off in my head. And then you want to ask for a hug, and then I guess they hold them in that hug, and then they forcibly rob them of any jewelry or valuables that they have. And, you're not going to get that close to me. I can't allow it.
This is mind-blowing. I actually don't understand how this actually happens, how someone parks, someone else gets out of the car, and they walk up, arms akimbo, like, give me a hug. No. Back when they first started off with these social media pranks where strangers walk up to you and, I don't know, throw a pie in your face or dump a bucket of water on you.
Or even a knockout game. I don't need you walking towards me.
That alone always had me on edge. Just strangers walking up on me, period. But I know people that I grew up with that used to get an attractive young lady to distract some young man and rob them of their wares, either to get their car keys and jack their cars, security guards at supermarkets to have them just all some half-naked girls staring at them, come up from behind, pop. Now you got yourself a drive-by weapon. I just know this just from being a kid and knowing what people used to do. Don't walk up on me, especially asking for a hug.
Maybe that's just because we've lived in a city environment and know what usually goes on or what would-be criminals would try to do. And it's always connected to some form of distraction. Always. Talk about the gas station. You're distracted. This hugging robbery, you're distracted. That's always a part of it. And maybe they're more elaborate where they have more people involved. Even when they had the pullover, they tap your car and have you pull over to the side of the freeway so they can rob you and take your car, what have you. It's about distraction or a misdirection. If the moment you get a car stops in front of my house that I don't know, my antennae go up. A person that I don't know gets out of the car and walks towards me, I assume something is up.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't have any real reason to, but my first inclination is to assume the worst about you. I just do because I can't make the mistake of, letting my guard down and something happening to me or my family or if I'm walking my dogs or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if that comes from studying martial arts and from first and foremost, knowing your surroundings, knowing what's happening, trying to keep your head on the swivel and eyes in the back of the head, or if it is just growing up, as you said, in a city-like environment where you are adjacent to people who commit crimes and you know how people are taken advantage of, or hell, even if it's just watching television, I don't know why you would think that someone walking up on you trying to ask for a hug that you don't know is a good idea.
I don't care how gorgeous, let's say it's a honeypot as we called it. Let's say, I don't care how gorgeous that woman may be. It's like, what business do you have with me? And part of it is martial arts because we're always taught, the fight begins when they are within arm's reach, when they can actually harm you. And someone holding out their arms to hug you, as far as I'm concerned, the fight has begun because you're trying to get in my space.
Yeah.
Not that I'm necessarily afraid of the person who's coming to hug me, but I know that there is something afoot. There's something else going on. Maybe it's something like it's minor. They want to break down my guard so they can sell me something. Maybe, and I've had this before where you'll have someone approach you and say, hey, can I give you a hug? And then they'll want to start proselytizing and tell you about the Lord. I've had similar things like that, but my rules are always the same. I don't want you in my personal space, especially if you haven't identified yourself and you haven't made plain your business with me.
The instant you're walking up on me, I am extending my arm in a defensive, hands out position so that you know automatically I'm not comfortable. I'm not aggressing towards you, but I'm putting my hands up in both hands in a position where I know I can easily close fists and grab, but I'm automatically saying this position says, hold on, don't walk up on me, introduce yourself, say something.
You know what I think this is a function of, because we're all more conscious of crime. Crime is more brazen. Crime is happening in the suburbs. You know, this probably wouldn't work in the inner city because it's a different, it's people carry themselves differently. You would not try to walk up and hug people in the inner city. You just wouldn't. Yeah. You just wouldn't. And so maybe they can catch some people. Like, for example, we used to say growing up, don't let anyone catch you slipping. If you don't know what that means, then you probably are going to be caught slipping. Just being caught unaware, not paying attention to your surroundings. And if there is a takeaway from this, it's called the hugging robbers today. But these distraction schemes are not new. And the general rule of thumb is always be aware of your surroundings and do not let anyone get in your personal space. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of crime, LA Metro North Hollywood says that they've seen a 40% drop in crime. Now, you might say that 40% is either good or bad. 40% because that's 2/5 of all crime dropping, or the fact that, you know, we don't know if that means, what is that, 100 robberies and 40% of 100 robberies is dropping? You know, we need some context, and we'll give you that when we come back.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Fork reporter Neil Saavedra was listening in last segment, and he texted me. I guess he doesn't believe me when I said that, you know, I go to the gas station and people would try to sell you stuff, you know, maybe sell you candy bars, trying to sell you, I don't know, their literal CDs of their music. And I also said tube socks, and Neil was saying, who's trying to sell you tube socks at the gas pump? I'm saying, I didn't get his name. I didn't have a conversation with him. I didn't even go into why he was there trying to sell clothing at the gas station. But anyone who's, let's just say, driven through the hood and gotten gas, you know that when you go to a gas station, invariably there is somebody there asking for money, panhandler, someone who wants to sell you something, or they have a sob story about how they're on their way back to New York City and just need an extra $2 or $3 to drive from California to New York City. It's weird. Of the times I do go to the gas station, almost every time someone just ran out of gas and they're just trying to get home. I just want a different lie. Just give me a different lie. Not even a better lie. Just give me a different one, because that one is all used up. I know gas costs a lot. I'm not putting that aside. I'm just saying honesty is a better policy or a better lie. Give me the truth or a really good lie, but not a bad lie masquerading as the truth. But that's then. This is now. Let's talk about LA Metro real quick. Last segment, I was previewing how LA Metro's North Hollywood station, and I know this station because I used to ride it. That's the last stop, or was the last stop on the Red Line when you were coming to North Hollywood. And I would take that stop, and then I would get a Burbank bus to iHeartMedia Studios. So I know what that station looks like. Well, Los Angeles Metro's North Hollywood station is reporting that they've seen a 40% drop in, get this, violent incidents. Not total incidents, but violent incidents. And they attribute it to the heightened scrutiny of fare jumpers. This is from NBCLosAngeles.com. Nearly 2 months since the LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, LA Metro, began requiring subway riders to tap their cards in and out of the North Hollywood station, the number of violent incidents dropped over 40%. But let's stop right there. They don't tell you how many violent incidents they've had over what period. Is it a drop of 40% over a month? Is it over the past 3 months? Are you saying that you had 10 violent incidents per day and now you have only 6? And when you say violent incidents, does that mean that you're only seeing 4 stabbings and 2 muggings of those 10? Are you saying that there was 1 sexual assault and maybe 5 robberies? There's no real context because they don't want you to know that the devil is actually in the details. They call it the tap to exit pilot. It started back on May 28th. So we're only talking about a month and a half of data. Started on May 28th. And the goal, the express goal, the stated goal was ensuring that everyone pays for each subway ride coming and going. And now they're considering it to be a permanent program at the station. Let me stop right there. You're saying to me that you didn't have a permanent program or expectation in place for people to use their tap card to get on and off the subway? The reason I bring this up is because when I was riding the subway in Washington, D.C. in the 1980s, you had to use your subway card to get on, in other words, through the turnstile, and to exit the station through the turnstile. You had to do that to get on the train and to get off the train and leave the station. That was in the late 1980s, early 1990s. Now, LA comes along and says, hey, we got this brand new idea. We have this great idea. It might help stem violent incidents on our trains. We're going to make people use their tap card to get on the train and also get off the train and leave the station. We're going to call it tap to exit. It's going to revolutionize transportation in this city. So now they rediscovered water, and they're going to make this a permanent program at the station. And maybe they say they might even expand it across the transit system. Think of it. They'll expand the program where you'll have to use your tap card, and they will monitor you. They will force you to use your tap card to get on and get off the train. And then they might have a 40% reduction in just violent incidents, not all incidents, but violent incidents of some unnamed, non-specific kind across the transit system because they're having so much success with North Hollywood. And they say through the Transit Watch app, which is what they say is their See Something, Say Something app, they've actually seen reported crime. Again, that's a modifier, reported crime, because we all know that 100% of crime is not reported. But they've seen reported crime and incidents down over 40% for things like fights and disturbances, graffiti vandalism, and drug use. How do you have 40% decrease in graffiti vandalism? Are they counting the scribbles on the window? I don't know how that works. Well, the transit agency also increased station staff, including ambassadors, so they have more green shirts. They have more law enforcement officers, according to this, and more transit security guards. So let me just spitball this out loud. Do you think that the 40% drop in crime has to do with forcing people to tap to exit, or just, follow me on this? Or maybe does it have more to do with more law enforcement officers and more transit security guards being available and visible and accessible? Do you think it's the tap to exit or the security guards and law enforcement? Especially when we're talking about reported crime, because I don't know how many tap cards have ever stopped an actual fight or a physical assault or a sexual assault. Law enforcement, I think that has happened. Transit security officer, yeah, probably. But I don't know if a tap card has ever intervened and saved anyone on any platform. Hasn't saved any bus drivers. That much I damn sure know. I don't know if it's saved anyone in the green shirt either. But this is the latest from LA Metro's North Hollywood station, sees 40% drop in violent incidents, and they attributed to Tap to Exit pilot program, which may be system-wide before the end of the year. That's good news.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Earlier today, you might have heard me speaking with Mark Thompson, who is in for Tim Conway Jr. Mark put it out on the air. It's not a big deal, but just as a reference point, today is my wedding anniversary, 8th wedding anniversary. And my wife came up to the office. We went to get some food to eat downstairs at Morton's Steakhouse, which is right by the studio. Long story short, she came up and said hello to everyone, said hello to Robin, said hello to Mark Ronner and Tuwala. And my wife pulled me aside and said, hey, for the thing, we should invite Tuwala and his son. Well, what she was talking about is, we have like an annual family get together. And last year we went on a cruise, like the Mexican Riviera cruise. You already know where this is going. And she was saying like, wait a minute, we're possibly going to do one in maybe late August, early September for Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And she was saying like, do you think Tuwala and his son maybe would like to go? I said, not a chance in hell, but you're more than welcome to ask him. Because I didn't want to speak for you, Tuwala, but I know from what you said on air that there's a snowball's chance in hell of getting you on a cruise ship.
Okay, this is going to be a major revelation.
Let's have it.
On the 29th, I originally thought you were going to be off because I know
of July.
So I took the 29th off because my family, the co-parent and my kids want to go to Catalina.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, you guys, I'm going to try to just dip my toe in the water, go a little bit further than the little paddle boats at the park. And I'm going to get on this boat with you and go from it's the Long Beach Harbor over to Catalina. That's going to be me getting on a boat into
it's like
water.
A half hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. In the open water now. Now I've been on the Alcatraz, boat trip. I got on that boat.
Okay.
I was scared poopless. Okay. I really, really was. Really, really was. But I said to myself, I survived. No whales or whale sharks or,
you never went whale watching
Megasaurus as a kid. Yeah. And I threw up repeatedly over and over again. That was not a good experience. It didn't help with my fear of deep, dark water. But I'm getting on this boat to Catalina as a precursor to trying to ramp myself up and actually take life by the cojones and possibly get on one of these cities by the sea that you all travel.
Yeah, we're talking about Royal Caribbean. We're going to do it up. Okay, so I at least have you on the podcast as saying you would consider it.
I am looking towards considering I'm getting butterflies and nauseous to talk about this right now.
You don't feel really the motion of the ship.
Right now, I feel my heart beating really, really fast talking about it. I am thinking about the megalodon that's going to come up out of nowhere because of our warming waters. It's been asleep at the bottom of the sea. Now it's woken because of global warming, and it's going to come up and swallow the ship whole. These are the wild things that I think about when I think about going on cruise ships.
Okay, we'll make sure that Jason Statham is also available to save us all.
If he's on that ship signing autographs, I might be willing to get on this cruise.
Okay. Well, that's not a no then, at least.
It's not a no.
It's highly unlikely, but not a no. And it's largely dependent upon how Catalina goes.
Yeah. Cause if I get on that boat to Catalina
and I've been on the boat to Catalina, you're going to feel more on that boat, which is really a boat as opposed to an actual ocean liner ship.
But see, at least that one, I guess it does go over deep ocean water.
Yeah. You won't be able to touch the bottom, Tuwala.
I won't be able to dog paddle my way.
No, you could actually dog paddle your way, but you probably won't be too far from the shore because it goes along the coast.
Okay.
The Baja California coast. So, something to consider.
I can see the shore.
For the most part. Sometimes they do go out in open water, so you feel like you have more of a...
Why?
Because I think that's like a day at sea where you're just out in the water, floating around in direction. It's only like maybe 20, 25 at most 30 knots. You're not going that fast. You're just not.
I'm getting seasick right now.
Nah, you'll be fine. Besides, it won't be the sharks that get you. It'll be the jellyfish.
Well, you can get those just,
I've seen
right
those
off the beach.
on the beach in Miami. I've seen those.
Now, Joe Kwan, reporter Joe Kwan for Spectrum and also anchor here at KFI, she talks about getting stung by jellyfish all the time. That's why I stay my ass out of the water for the most part. I don't like things touching me in the water.
You don't like things touching you, period.
That's true. That's true. I'm consistent. Hey, that wasn't funny. That's just a statement of fact.
No, the judges will accept it. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. See, everyone's conspiring against me. No, but that's true. That's true. I'm not real big on people trying to rob me and hug me at the same time. And I'm not real big on jellyfish trying to sting me, bees trying to sting me. People try to beat me up in sparring. I'm not big on all that. Nope.
So closed off. What happened to you?
Look, you're one to talk. The one I can't even get to come to my.
No. We're talking about you. We're not talking
July
about
party.
Me. You're the host of the show. We're talking about you. The focus should always be on the host.
KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Well, at least you've decided to listen to KFI. See, you're making progress.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio.